Before we get into materials, structures, and, some uncomfortable truths about modern gear, just take a moment to subscribe to Strange History. This channel is for viewers who want survival knowledge tested by centuries, not product cycles. If you care about what actually worked when failure meant exposure and death, you're exactly who this is for. Modern survival tents promise speed, lightweight, and convenience. They go up fast, pack small, and look impressive in a catalogue. But ancient shelter designs were not trying to win awards for portability. They were trying to keep people alive through winters, storms, migrations, and wars. When you compare them honestly, many ancient shelters outperform modern tents in the areas that matter most: insulation, durability, repairability, and long-term livability. Ancient shelters were designed around thermal mass, not fabric tension. Modern tents rely on thin synthetic membranes that trap a layer of air and hope it's enough. In mild conditions, it often is. In sustained cold, wind, or precipitation, it usually isn't. Ancient shelters used earth, wood, stone, sod, hides, and bark to store heat and slow temperature change. A turf hut or earth lodge absorbed warmth during the day and released it slowly at night. Even a simple debris hut built correctly creates insulation measured in feet, not millimeters. In practical terms, this means less energy spent generating heat and more margin for error when the fire dies down. Wind management is another area where ancient design quietly dominates. Modern tents are engineered to resist wind by shedding it, but they still present large, flexible surfaces that flap, deform, and eventually fail. Ancient shelters avoided wind altogether. They were dug partially into the ground, built low, or shaped to break airflow. A well-sited lean-to or pit shelter uses terrain as a structural component. For a survivalist, this means learning site selection is more important than carrying a stronger tent pole. Repairability separates ancient shelters from modern ones more sharply than almost any other factor. When a tent tears, snaps, or delaminates, repair options are limited and often temporary. Ancient shelters assumed damage. Roofs sagged, walls eroded, and materials decayed, but they were designed to be reinforced continuously. Adding branches, soil, or hides was not an emergency fix, it was normal maintenance. In hands-on terms, an ancient-style shelter improves over time. A modern tent degrades from the moment it leaves the factory. Ancient shelters also handled moisture better over long periods. Modern tents focus on waterproofing through coatings and sealed seams. Once those coatings fail, moisture management collapses. Traditional shelters layered materials instead of sealing them. Bark over poles, sod over bark, hides over lattice, thatch over timber. Water shed outward while air still moved through the structure. This reduced condensation, mold, and interior dampness. Practically, a layered shelter stays drier inside over weeks of use than a sealed tent subjected to constant humidity. Fire integration is where modern tents are at their weakest. Most tents cannot safely accommodate open flame, limiting heat, light, and cooking options. Ancient shelters were designed around fire. Smoke holes, draft control, and heat reflection were integral features. Even small fires dramatically increase survivability in cold environments. Learning how to build a shelter that safely incorporates fire changes survival math entirely. It turns fuel into heat, light, food processing, and psychological comfort all at once. Longevity is often ignored in modern survival planning, but, history was really forced to confront it. Ancient shelters were meant to be lived in for seasons or even generations. They supported storage, sleeping platforms, tool maintenance, and all the daily routines. Modern tents, on the other hand, are just short-term solutions. For a survivalist, the difference truly matters. If you expect to remain in one area for more than a few days, investing time in an ancient-style shelter pays dividends quickly. Each hour you spend building reduces energy loss every night afterward. Ancient shelter design also, scales naturally. A single person could build a debris hut, a family could build a longhouse, and a community could build a village. The tools and materials, interestingly, remained consistent. Modern tents just don't scale the same way. Each additional person requires additional manufactured components. Historically, shelter was a system, not a product. The system adapted as needs changed. Another overlooked advantage is camouflage and thermal signature. Ancient shelters blended into their environments. Earth tones, organic shapes, and low profiles reduced visibility and heat loss. Modern tents often stand out visually and thermally. In certain survival contexts, especially those involving security concerns, this difference is not academic. The real reason ancient shelters outperform modern tents is philosophical. Ancient builders expected bad weather, material failure, and long-term exposure. They designed for resilience, not convenience. Modern tents assume rescue, resupply, and short duration. When those assumptions break, so does the shelter. This doesn't mean modern tents are useless. They're excellent tools for specific contexts. But when survival shifts from overnight inconvenience to prolonged exposure, ancient design principles outperform modern materials with alarming consistency. If you want to become truly resilient, don't just practice pitching a tent. Practice reading terrain, harvesting materials, and building shelter systems that improve with time. History already solved this problem. All that's left is remembering how. If you found this useful, subscribe to Strange History and share this with someone who still thinks survival shelter begins and ends with a tent.